Good morning, everybody. I am that blind guy, Tyler, and today we are watching a video from Jonto Hill 2. It is tf2 how to man heavy, spelled with two N's because Manco. Jonto he plays a lot of Team Fortress 2, classic game. I've played some of it. He's primarily known as a spy main, so this should be rather interesting to see what his take on heavy is. Let's get into it.
I am heavy weapons guy. This is my weapon.
How is his editing so damn good? Mechanica soundtrack, very based. Turn that down just a little bit so it's not double speakers.
The big man with a big gun and big damage. You can tell that by just taking one look at him, and it sums up his strengths pretty well. First strength is his massive health pool, easily having the highest of all 9 classes at 300. And when overhealed by a medic, it goes up to a whopping 450. That's more than 2 base health soldiers. The other main strength is his high sustained damage, which absolutely demolishes the health of enemy players. Behold.
Nice.
The damage and accuracy is affected by distance, so the closer you are, the more damage you do. But it begins to be less effective at long range, so don't try to use it as a sniper rifle. The weaknesses of Heavy are being the slowest and least mobile class in the game, requiring line of sight to deal damage, being susceptible to focus fire, and especially susceptible to attacks capable of one-shotting him. Most notably on Sniper and Spy, but more on that later. Heavy is another beginner-friendly class. The 3 main learning curves to playing Heavy are tracking, positioning, and game sense. Tracking is pretty simple. Just aim good. Keep your aim on target to keep dealing damage and try not to get thrown off by sudden changes in direction. Positioning is key given you can't move very fast. Where you are in relation to the enemy plays a big part in your chances of success. Take this position for
I didn't
example.
quite see what that reference was.
The enemy has no cover to
I
immediately
blinked and I
jump
missed it. That's the problem. That's the problem with super fast editing like this. You can literally blink and miss something. I saw something, but I don't want to go back.
Attacking me. My health is high. This guy is, for lack of a better word, fucked.
He is.
As opposed to here, I'm exposed, in a choke point, revved up so my movement is slowed, and there are multiple enemies ahead with immediate access to cover so they can corner peek me. This is a less desirable position as you can imagine. Which brings us to game sense. It's the skill of knowing where the objective is and where all the fights are happening, and using that information to predict where players will be and what's around you. Game sense is what informs your decisions on where you position, and it helps to be aware of your surroundings thanks to 2 classes in particular.
Hydration break. Go drink water right now.
Heavy.
I paused it. Go drink some water right now. You're required. Okay, good to see you.
But let's now elaborate on Sasha.
The minigun.
While you need to rev up the gun before firing, you can hold right-click to keep it revved without firing. There is also a 50% damage and accuracy penalty for the first second when the gun is revved up. So you're rewarded for being prepared, and is why heavy versus heavy fights often boil down to who revs first. But don't just run around with the gun revved the whole time. In fact, using the word run is a bit of a stretch.
That's being a little generous for running.
Can't jump, can't switch weapons.
I think heavy, just at base, is 70% slower than normal classes. And then with his minigun up, he also ends up with a 30% movement speed on top of the 70%. Or subtracted from the 70%. So he's like barely scratching 50% move speed.
And making a constant noise the enemy can hear. If they're paying attention, the enemy probably won't round the corner straight into a heavy they know is revved and waiting for them. The sound of you unrevving the gun also acts as a signal that they have a window to attack. They can even tell what minigun you're using based on the sound of the rev. You've got Stock, Natasha, Yualonghita, Brass Beast, Tomislav. Wait, the point is you need to manage when you are having the gun revved up or not.
Hey, wait a minute, that last one didn't make sound.
When you need to get into position, reposition, retreat, or stay quiet, you keep the gun unrevved. Note that the minigun isn't super loud, so you can still get away with weird angles if people aren't paying attention. And even if heavy is slow, doesn't mean you shouldn't make use of movement. A moving target is still harder to hit than a stationary one. Even the slightest bit of movement can make all the difference. Another technique that can increase mobility is jump revving, where you jump right before revving to briefly negate the movement penalty until you hit the ground.
However, just because you can jump rev does not mean you should.
Yes, it lets you move a bit faster at the start, but you also can't back out quickly. You're also suffering from the damage and spread penalty for that first second, as opposed to just rounding the corner already spun up with full damage. Jump revving is cool looking, but should really only be used sparingly, since that damage penalty can seriously cost you, given most fights involve a damage trade where you need to kill the enemy before they kill you. It's an aggressive play and a potential time save, but only if it actually works. A lot
Yeah.
of times, it's better to be already revved up and ready to fire. Speaking of bullet fire, where do you think the bullets shoot from? The barrel of the gun? Ha! You absolute buffoon! You think the heavy weapon of the heavy weapons guy is where the bullets come from? No, they actually shoot from his eyes. Yeah, it turns out to avoid
Damn, that's crazy. So instead of heat vision, he's got fucking bullet vision.
issue with waist
That'd be a wild superpower to see
the effect
Superman
of the
have.
bullets coming out of your gun
Bullet
is
vision.
just an illusion. As long as you can directly see the enemy, the bullets will hit, which allows for weird situations like this. Of course, while line of sight is important to deal damage, you actually need to hit the enemy. As mentioned before, tracking is just the skill of aiming good and keeping on target. If you're constantly missing your target, they'll have a much easier time approaching you and dealing enough damage to whittle you down. Remember, your high health is an advantage because it allows you to take a lot of hits, but if you aren't hitting the enemy in the first place, they can tear you down surprisingly fast.
Oh
Some
no.
players will just charge you down
Buddhist
head-on,
engage.
making themselves pretty easy targets. Some will try more erratic movement to throw
Can't
off the
do a
window
reaction to
tracking.
that video. I've
You can
already
try
watched
find
it like
patterns
1,000
in their movement, and it
times.
becomes more effective against you the closer they are, especially if they get right in your face. When that close, they can easily get off your screen over and over with erratic movement, which some players, often scouts, pyros, and spies, will use to throw off your aim. Often the counter to this strat is to not let them get that close in the first place. If they try to get close but you start shooting them before they can, they'll either be forced to back off or just, die. There are also the
Yeah.
cases of airborne classes. Well, guess I'll die. Yeah, the minigun is really good at
Hi,
catching
Sound
out
Smith.
airborne enemies, especially when moving towards you. Though enemies with good air strafing, using man treads, or moving towards cover are harder to hit. Just remember that, again, the minigun has spread and damage fall off over distance. It's not a sniping weapon. But all this having to manage revving the gun, keeping your crosshair on the enemy to continue dealing damage, all this stuff you need to deal with when dealing damage is heavy. But oh, look, it looks like he just pressed 2 on his keyboard. By default, the heavy comes equipped with a shotgun, and it is straight up identical to the stock shotgun on Soldier. Being a shotgun, it's more dangerous up close and falls off at range, but it's important to note that it doesn't need to rev up or anything. You just pull the trigger and it fires. You don't need to keep
Go
your aim
bang.
on target the entire time either. All that matters is your aim at the exact moment the shot was fired. It's not as devastating at close range as the minigun, but it deals burst damage instead of sustain, without slowing you down either. And you still have that high health pool, allowing you to take lots of hits. Some call this strategy Fat Scout, but to me it's just, using all the items you have equipped. But seriously, the shotgun does have its place. A big guy charging at you with a shotgun is pretty scary. There are also 2 other shotguns you can equip on the heavy, and hey look, another one that's shared with Soldier, but they are still at their core, shotguns. However, there is also another class of item that can be equipped into heavy secondary slot. Instead of carrying a lethal weapon, you can carry food. And most players actually
Sandwich.
prefer the food. It must be really damn tasty, especially since the heavy himself is the noisiest eater in the world! Sandwich is the most popular choice, and for good reason.
So much
Upon
yelling
use, it puts
in
you
this
a
video.
eating animation that
So much.
immobilizes you, but heals you for 300 health throughout its duration. If you take damage during the animation, chances are you'll just heal it back super fast. This can hilariously screw over people trying to kill you while you eat. Just remember to put your back to a wall, or even more preferably a corner before eating, due to a certain class that can bypass your massive health pool. But being able to take cover and heal yourself on the fly is super strong. You can even drop the sandwich to other players, which acts like a medium health pack. Note how I said other players and not teammates. If it's on cooldown and your health
Motherfucker
is
gonna
full,
steal your
picking up
sandwiches.
any health pack will instantly recharge it. Use it to keep yourself alive, your teammates alive, or just be a hoobie that gives sandwiches to everyone, regardless of team, because you believe in the goodness of your fellow man, and because it's funny to play the game incorrectly. The cousin of the sandwich is the second banana. It's identical, except it only heals
I can go for a
2/3 as
banana
much,
right now.
acts as a small health
Get
pack
some
instead of immediately
potassium.
dropped,
It's good for
but
you.
it recharges twice as
Go eat
fast.
fruit right now.
This works better on more independent heavies.
Fruit break. I don't have any fruit with me. I'm just gonna have another drink. Alright, good, you're back.
200 health is still a lot of health. That's the same amount as a soldier. There's 2 other lunchbox items as well, but I'll skip over them because I don't want this to be a food review. Also, if you want to read what they do. Now,
Also,
let's
the
cycle
buffalo
back to
steak
the
is just bad.
miniguns.
Guns
There are
time.
4 alternate ones you may unlock. First up, the Huolong heater. This thing creates a fire ring around you when spun up and deals bonus damage to burning players, but consumes ammo while spun up and has a damage penalty. Now, the firing is cool and all and might discourage players from getting too close, but it's not as powerful as you might think due to reasons I'll explain later. The Natasha has a damage and spin-up penalty, but slows down enemies that are hit by it. This one is really good at pissing off scouts. It also gives you a 20% damage resistance when spun up and below 50% max health. The Brass Beast does 20% bonus damage while also doing the same damage resist thing the Natasha does. And more damage sounds amazing, right? What's the downside? Oh yeah, it's just intensifying Heavy's greatest weakness, aka his slow movement. Yeah, don't let that damage bonus fool you. It can be okay defensively or if you want to cosplay as a sentry gun, but the speed penalty is harsh. Then we have what is often considered the best of the non-stock miniguns, the Tomislav. It spins up faster and is more accurate, which boosts how good it is at range. But what's also really important about it is the silent rev. Yeah, this is the only minigun that actually makes no noise while revved up, making ambush and flanking strategies much more powerful. It seriously benefits from the element of surprise, as enemies have a harder time seeing you coming despite already being ready to fire. However, it fires 15 to 20% slower, which you can think of as a damage penalty that consumes less ammo. So it's often beaten out by stock in terms of raw damage potential. And then there's his melee weapon, the Fists, which deals 65 damage with an 0.8 second attack interval just like other stock melees. Except if you right click, he punches with the right fist instead, and taunting with them does this. But the unlockable melees have their own utility.
Left click, throw punch with left hand. Right click, throw punch with right hand. You can't use it to increase attack speed though.
Increase movement speed while held, but drains max health temporarily while doing so. Great at getting you to the front lines faster, but can leave you vulnerable with too much use. Fists of Steel reduces all ranged damage by 40% while held, but doubles all melee damage while held. Can be great for getaways as you can tank more ranged damage, but just be careful of players that know its weakness and can abuse it. Then the
You take
killing gloves of
100%
boxing.
more damage
It
from
swings
melee.
slower, but on kill grants 5 seconds of critical hits. On all weapons.
Mmm.
Yeah, you know that thing I said earlier about how you shouldn't try to snipe people with the minigun due to damage and accuracy fall-off? Well, critical hits aren't affected by damage fall-off, meaning in any situation you're dealing crits, the minigun temporarily becomes a deadly laser beam. It is ridiculously powerful and scary. You're unstoppable, and your health is so high, they have no hope in taking you out.
Oh yeah, got spies and shit. And sniper. Yes, and sniper.
Sniper and Spy. 2 very unique threats to you as a heavy player. The sniper rifle isn't affected by damage fall-off, does 50 damage at base, 150 damage when fully charged, and headshots multiply the damage by 3. The mathematically astute among you may have realized that a fully charged headshot deals the exact amount of damage needed to kill an overhealed heavy in 1 hit. As
Dang.
a spy, here's the math for what internally happens when getting hit by a backstab if you care, but all you really need to know is, unless supercharged, getting backstabbed is guaranteed death. That's the reason both of these classes are so dangerous. Heavy's high health allows him to take a lot more hits than other classes, but Sniper and Spy are able to bypass that and finish you off with just a single hit. As a new player, expect to die to these 2 a lot. When it comes to Sniper, be aware of common sightlines and learn to spot them in the distance. Anytime you're within the line of sight of a sniper, you are liable
I'm never
to get
gonna
headshot.
notice snipers.
If they're
I'm gonna
at
get
long
domed
range,
so
trying to
frequently.
outsnipe them with your minigun will usually not end well. But if you find yourself in a position where a sniper is aiming at you, remember that any amount of movement makes you harder to hit than none at all. Even sudden changes in direction can throw them off. Or you can even crouch right before you think they'll take a shot to dodge it. Just remember to do this a bit before, since due to lag, the game may not register you crouching in time. If you find yourself at medium to close range with a sniper, you can more confidently attack, given you employ the previous tactics to avoid being headshot. But if you catch them off guard, they often won't have time to charge up a shot to kill you before getting mowed down by the big gun.
If only you could just grab the gun and whack people with it.
Is to just avoid them entirely. With Spy, instead of being aware of what's far ahead of you, it's being aware of what's behind you. Pay attention to signs that a spy may be nearby. Cloak sounds, teammates behaving weirdly, or straight up seeing a spy. If you do notice something odd...
Also seeing health packs disappear. The backstab indicators of up in the top right corner.
Keep your head on a swivel, and make it a habit
Health
to
pack
check
disappeared.
behind you every now and
Spy!
again regardless. This can also drastically differ depending on the skill of the
Also
spy
call all
question.
of your teammates
Some will
spies.
see you as a free kill and go for you whenever, but some are smarter and will wait until you're seemingly too occupied to turn around. Keyword on seemingly, because you can pretend to be busy to bait out a spy attack. Should you turn around while revved up
He might
right
be
as the
fucked.
spy was about to stab you, you're at high health, they can't reasonably gun you down, and depending on distance, they may not have time to trick stab you. So they're fucked. Spy
Damn,
players often
minigun
have
to the
passes,
dick. That's
so try and
unfortunate.
catch on to when they try to attack and where you find yourself often getting stabbed. But remember, this is a two-way street, as experienced spies can also learn and adapt to your patterns as well. Spy is a
Big brain
massive
battle
test
time.
of your awareness. But you have to balance checking for spies with active combat. You can't just keep turning around in the middle of a fight, since that displaces your crosshair and messes up your tracking, which can give the enemy enough time to kill you. Basically meaning the spy got you killed by not even existing. Also,
Damn.
if you think the ring of the Huey long heater will protect you from spies, it won't. It's hilariously easy to just jump over it and stab the heavy while taking absolutely no fire damage. It's a balance, and sometimes you're just going to get stabbed. But try to use your game sense to figure out those patterns. Speaking of... These are the other two big parts of the heavy learning
Positioning
curve,
and the
they
game
both go hand
sense.
in hand. Game sense is your ability to assess the game state quickly, knowing what parts of the map your team does and does not have control of. Is your team holding their ground well? Are they pushing into enemy ground, or is the enemy pushing into yours? What classes do they have and how good are those players? And what about those on your team as well? Game sense is something you'll develop the more you play, and good game sense will inform your
I just woke
decisions
up.
when it comes to positioning.
I think it's like
Obviously, being
8
familiar with
a.m.
the
right
map
now.
you're playing on helps immensely, especially maps that have parts of them change as objectives are captured, allowing you to know where both your team and the enemy team is spawning at any given time, as well as what paths will be open. You'll also be able to reasonably guess where certain classes will be, such as engineers and snipers. Good positioning is putting yourself in fights you believe you can reasonably win, or having a way to back out and recover. Playing around your team is one of the best things you can do, as while you can't outrun the enemy should you need to retreat, it's hard to chase you if there are other people providing cover fire,
Oh, no.
especially if there's a sentry gun in your back line.
Oh no.
You're weak to focus fire, but if there's more things than just you to focus fire on, it becomes less of a problem. Playing around health packs works very well, as you have a quick method to restore a lot of health right away. Playing around medics can be even better, as not only do you have a constant source of health, but their overheal lets you sponge more damage. Having access to health like this lets you take more damage and play far more aggressive, especially when it comes to jump revving. And if you get ubercharged, you can forget about dying for the next 8 seconds.
Well, actually, what about if you get air blasted into a death
Oh my
pit?
god, shut up! If your team is pushing up and or has a numbers advantage, take that opportunity and
God,
push with them.
fucking
If
nerd.
being pushed back,
Knowing
play
shit.
cautiously and defensively, letting them regroup. If your team is flanking for a surprise attack at a weird angle, go with them. If you're playing further away from your team, it's important that you catch the enemy off guard. If the enemy isn't guarding their flanks very well, you can push into them while they're trying to fight your team at a different angle. When playing like this, don't stay in one place too long and keep moving. You
Yeah.
also have a significant advantage on high
I
ground
hope I'm
against
not getting
most
sick.
classes, since the ledge you're on gives the enemy much less of you to shoot at, and the splash damage of rockets is often not an option. though this is somewhat angle dependent, and sometimes you may want to drop down to close distance or chase a player attempting to retreat. A tactic that will inevitably be used against you is corner peeking. This is where enemies duck in and out of cover to deal burst damage to you while reducing the amount of time you have to damage them. This can be countered by moving around to make aiming harder, moving wide around a corner to trick them into giving you more line of sight exposure, or by suddenly rounding the corner yourself with the spun up gun, which can at times put them in a position where you're fully spun up, right in their face, your health is still high, and they have no cover. Meaning they're fucked.
Yeah.
Big man with the big gun. Slow, susceptible to focus fire, and weak to one-shots. But that's all the more reason why your positioning and awareness of the game state is so important. You can't move very fast, so where you do go is key. Try to put yourself in favorable fights, know when to back out, play with your team, and work with advantages. Heavy may have weaknesses, but that's why you need to play to your strengths. Because when it goes right, you become the tank of tf2.
You might try and say this was a new series. Oh well. Though, if it oh no, wait, it is. I need to use my eyes. It's almost like I'm blind or something. Meh. At any rate, thanks everybody for joining me. Go subscribe to John Toe Hill 2, I think is actually. Yeah. Yeah, John Toe Hill 2. Go subscribe to him. Like and subscribe this video. Subscribe to me because I would really like it. It'd be very nice. I'd be happy to have all of you here. And everybody, have a nice day.